and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please?
I'm self-confident, right? No. I'm self-confident, right? I am, right? No, Todd, I want you to say, I'm self-confident. I'm self-confident, right? Right? No, you listener out there, I'm self-confident, right? So I just want you to understand that it's not abnormal. I want you to know that I am self-confident, but in many, many cases, I feel inferior. Matter of fact, most of my life, I have felt mostly inferior. And I want to help you, if you're out there and you do feel inferior, I want to help you understand that is normal. I want to help you understand, though, that it is normal. I want you to understand that it is crippling. I want you to understand that it is debilitating. I do want you to understand that it's harmful. I do want you to understand that it will keep you from becoming successful. And so the question here is, I'm self-confident, right? I have 6 plays that are going to help you shake this inferiority. And I want you to pay attention. I want you to listen. I want you to go through this process. But before we can get to the 6 plays to help shake your inferiority, we got to talk about inferiority. We got to talk about this whole thing about inferiority. So inferiority equals a person experience a feeling in a lower state. So let's quickly talk about that. A person experiencing a feeling in a lower state. Or let's say it this way, an individual experiencing a feeling in a lower state. Better said, an individual experiencing a feeling in a lower state. A person is an individual. So first of all, inferiority is an experience. And we know that an experience is a feeling. And we know that feelings can go away. Feelings can go away. So I want you to take that little nugget with you right now and say to yourself, inferiority is an experience are a feeling, and feelings can go away. Feelings and emotions come and go. And if you're like me, they're like a tsunami, they're like a river, they're like a meandering waterfall. And feelings and emotions come and go. And so I want you to take that as a good thing right now. I want you to understand that inferiority is a feeling, but it's of you being in a lower state. And I want you to understand that feeling and that emotion can and will go away. So inferiority, we all have it. And if you want to lose the entire idea of feeling inferiority or feeling inferior in any capacity, I think we're going to solve that today. But rest assured, you will have those movements and those emotions. But we're going to work through that, and we're going to know why, okay? So here we go. Inferiority, a person or an individual. I want to change that word right now. I wish I could change it. A individual, N-A-N, individual experiencing a feeling of lower state. So now that we know what inferiority is, I want you to understand why we feel inferior or why we feel confident, because most of us can feel confident and we can feel inferior, right? So we know that we have the capacity to feel confident in some things. Hang on to that thought. We know that we do feel inferior in some things. As a little boy, I felt inferior in everything, right? Right? As I got a little older, I just felt inferior in some things. And as I got to my middle ages, I only felt inferior in fewer things. And as I got older, I felt less inferior in most things and most confident in many things, right? But why is that? Well, it's because we need to understand the inferiority, which is really this talk, not really about self-confidence, because we need to beat this inferiority, right? So we need to understand that the inferiority complex comes from understanding the whole truth. You see, we feel inferior when we don't. When we don't understand, this might be enough for you. We only feel inferior when we don't understand not just the truth, when we don't understand the whole truth, right? And now we want to take that thought process of, hey, when did you feel inferior last? Think about it. Think about it. When did you feel inferior last? I know you can go back to when you were a little kid. You were too small. You were too short. You were too slow, too cumbersome. You couldn't do math. Wait a minute. I'm explaining myself. I remember going to a spelling bee, right? In like 3rd or 4th grade. I felt so inferior. I couldn't spell anything. I couldn't spell. And I remember getting on stage and it was my turn and I had chocolate milk spilt on my shirt. I could probably cry telling this entire story. But not only did I feel inferior in the lunchroom going up there to spell when I couldn't spell, but I felt inferior because I had chocolate milk spilled on my shirt. This whole idea of feeling inferior in me was rooted in the fact that I didn't know the whole truth. And in that component of my life, I didn't know how to spell. So me being inferior was related to me not being able to spell. So I want you to understanding the whole truth, we feel inferior when we don't. When we don't understand the whole truth of anything or anybody. And most importantly, we don't feel the whole truth about ourselves. Being wired differently will lead you to understand that your favorite subject is the same as my favorite subject, me. I could talk about my favorite subject all day long, right? Ask anybody. Oh, Todd could, but I would tell you this. I need you to be able to talk about yourself all day long, because if you don't know the whole truth about the subject matter, you can't beat inferiority, right? Because we just talked about it being emotion and a feeling. We just talked about being pressed on by the lack of understanding of the whole truth. And if you don't understand the whole truth about yourself, then you can't be confident in yourself. And if you're not confident in yourself, you are going to feel inferior. The hobbling, the cauterizing, the debilitating notion of not being successful because of your own lack of knowledge of yourself and your willingness to dig deep and prove that your most important subject should be yourself so you can share it with the rest of the world. I need you to understand that the term I talked about, an individual feeling of a lower state, is about our own individuality. The infinite intelligence of our Creator yielded individuality, right? That the God, our Creator, infinite intelligence He has, right? I got it right here. Infinite intelligence of our Creator yields your specific purpose. Meaning that the God of our universe, our God, the one we talk to, the one we worship, the one we pray to, that God, our God knows all, bees all, and created this entire environment of individuality, right? He didn't make, I don't know, Del Toro, you call him up. If you have his phone number, call him up and he'll say he won't answer the phone. He just won't answer the phone. I mean, you got to call him. He's a very busy man, but he'll always leave a message and he'll say, if two of us are the same, then one of us is not necessary, right? And I'm like, this guy is whacked. He says that everywhere he goes, but I want you to know he's not whacked, and he doesn't lack self-confidence because he is supreme in his thought process of these things. But I will tell you this, he does feel inferior at times. He will say certain things just like all of us. But the bottom line is if two of us are the same, one of us is not necessary. God didn't create any of us, he didn't create any of us to be different, to be the same. So we're all individual, and he put us all on this earth to create the process of life moving forward. Have you ever wondered how an economy works? Have you ever wondered how a little city works? Ever wondered how the little town works? Well, if you need something, somehow it's provided for you, right? If you need groceries, there's a grocery store. If you need gas, there's a gas station. If someone dies, there's an undertaker. If you need a doctor, there's a doctor. It's this idea of the infinite intelligence of our Creator creating this whole individual workplace for all of us to be different so we can coexist. So the first thing to understand is your inferiority is driven by you not knowing yourself and not reckoning the fact that our individuality is meant to be individual. You're not to be compared to anybody else. You're just not. That's part of the problem with me is I look at someone else in maybe the speaking world now because it's my new venture. I look at someone even in the payroll world, and I look at them and I compare myself to them. I look at myself in the retail restaurant donut business. I compare myself. I look at myself in the staffing industry, and I compare myself. I look at myself in the factoring companies. I look at myself in the leasing companies. I look at myself in all these organizations. And if I get caught up in comparing myself to them, then I've lost the focus of individuality in me being the best in the world at my craft. And if I don't get out of that rut, I will feel inferior because I don't know the whole truth about them. And I'm starting to lose the grasp of the whole truth about myself, which brings me to the whole point of I need us to find our channel for us to become not inferior. For us to become self-confident, we need to understand that we are individuals. Inferiority is an emotion, and we need to understand that we're not the measure to anybody else. We are our own person, our own way, and our own lane. We need to find our channel, right? We need to find what we have knowledge in. If you stand there and you talk to a doctor about the brain surgery that you may be having, you're going to feel inferior to him because you don't know the full truth about what he knows and what you need to know. Think about that. Why would you compare yourself to somebody like that? Why would you compare yourself to anybody? You have to find your own channel. You have to create your own harmony in this world. You have to create your own life. You have to find your own way, take your individuality and compare it to yourself, right? You need to become harmonious. You need to become harmonious. You need to learn how to talk, right? You need to become harmonious in your life. You need to find your channel. You need to find something that you can gravitate to, that you can be knowledgeable above, so you can have those conversations with people, so you can be with those type of people, so you can have that feeling of drive and nurturing, right? We need that to find our way out of inferiority. We need to get away from inferiority. Don't put yourselves in positions where you're comparing yourself to an NFL football player when you're only a NAIA Division III wide receiver in 1984, right? That is not, I was not good enough to be that person. I said it. Okay? Yeah, I'm going to feel inferior all day long. And if I attach my self-worth to that NFL player, if I'm going to attach my self-worth to the guy who scored 6 touchdowns, and it certainly wouldn't have been on the Detroit Lions, but I'm going to feel inferior to that person. That is not who I am. I went out and found a different lane. After college, that was not going to be me. I needed to find a different lane. Matter of fact, I was not successful in college my first year. I got C's and D pluses maybe. I didn't do very well, and I told myself, what are you going to do? You're inferior. Your grades don't match up. You've got to change the narrative. You got to change the narrative. You got to figure out what you want to be and leave who you are. To get away from that inferiority, you need to build your knowledge in a base, in a lane that's you. Protect yourself, protect your mind from that feeling of inferiority. Now that you know what causes inferiority, which is the lack of knowledge, now we can go to work on it. So I want you to find your channel. I want you to become harmonious with that. I want you to render quality and quantity of services to humanity. Once you figure out what that channel is for you, then you can render, you can give back, you can deliver products and services and knowledges and help and good things that will give humanity of quality and quantity, and you won't have these inferiorities. You've moved yourself into a lane where you can focus, where you can be the best in the world at your craft. Whether it's a housewife, a doctor, a teacher, a donut maker, a payroll guy, a manufacturer, a farmer, you have your own specific channel and only you run that channel. I don't care if there's 2 million farmers, you are the best in the world at your craft because nobody can farm your specific lane, your specific channel, your specific patch of grass or farm ground or your potatoes or your soybeans or your corn. There's nobody else in the world that can do it as good as you on that particular day in that process. That's why you're not inferior to anybody in the world. That's why you are the master of your craft. You're an elite and deserve to be treated as such. And we know that speech. So I want you to get there. We will then be prosperous, right? And we're moving away from that. Let's move on down here. So let's talk about how we get away from feeling inferior. Let's talk about how this makes sense and how we get away from it. So I want to bring this term up, consciousness. Consciousness. So consciousness equals the sum of all your beliefs, and they add up to your state of being. So this consciousness, this streaming consciousness 24/7, all of your beliefs add up to your state of being. And when you take the streaming consciousness, right, and you think about all the things that are going on in your brain and your belief structure, inferiority comes out of this thought process that you've accepted untruths of yourself as to others. You've accepted untruths of yourself as compared to others, right? And if you knew this truth about yourself, you wouldn't feel inferior, right? So this consciousness of yourself, all of your thoughts, all of your total beliefs, all of your total thoughts, as they're streaming 24/7 from the time of birth till right now, is your consciousness. And somewhere in your consciousness, right, follow me, somewhere in this totality of all your beliefs and thoughts, you've accepted untruths of yourself as to others. And that's what drives this inferiority complex. Someone told you you were ugly. Someone told you you weren't pretty. Someone told you you were fat. Someone told you that you weren't nice. Someone told you that you were crabby and not fun to be around. Someone told you you were not likable. Someone told you that you were never going to make it in life. Someone told you that you weren't good enough. Right? Someone told you a bunch of malarkey. They told you bullshit, right? So let's just get it out there. They told you things that were not true about you, and you believed it in your consciousness. It's funny when you're sitting in a room all by yourself and you want to help people, and you're still helping yourself. So consciousness is this stream, a total of sum of all your thoughts and beliefs that add up to your being. And someone has told you untruths about yourself, and you've accepted them as truths. So what? Now, if you knew that they weren't true about yourself, then you wouldn't feel inferior. So I want to help you with that. I want you to understand that you are pretty. You are not ugly. You are smart. You can sing if you try. Right? You can be likable. You can be funny. Right? You can be all these things. But now that you know they're true, it's going to whack away at that inferiority. And now you can be purposeful about being that person you need to be, because becoming not inferior is mastering the truths about yourselves and not comparing yourself to other people, Todd. Why don't you just get over it? Right? So how does one change his consciousness of inferiority to consciousness of confidence, right? So yeah, that's all great. Good intro, Todd. Man, you nailed it. You're emotional and all that stuff, and we know it's real, but you're yapping along. How does one change his consciousness of inferiority to his consciousness of confidence in one's self? So how do you make the switch, Todd? How do you do it? Well, the subconsciousness is the piece that's embedded of those feelings and emotions in your actions. So your consciousness is this totality of all your beliefs, and we've got all that, and the lies that you believe that people were telling about you. But now we got to talk about the subconscious, because somewhere down the line, someone told you you were fat. Someone told you you were ugly. Someone told you you were not pretty. Someone told you you couldn't dance. Someone told you you couldn't speak. Someone told you. And it got through your consciousness and got sunk into your subconscious, and it's laying around in there, gnawing at you and working at you. And we've got to understand that we've got to refocus that. We've got to rewire those thoughts and deal with the fact that you have been telling untruths about yourself most of your life, and we got to flush those out and we got to deal with them. Your subconscious is the key to your freedom. I want your subconscious to tell the world that you are confident. I want the subconscious to realize that those lies that you have been believing are just that, they're lies. We need to make that move. We also need to know that this force of life that runs through us has this ability to make that decision, because we have four things I want you to understand. One is we got the conscious and we got the subconscious that harbors these lies about yourself. Trust me. And then we've got this two types of belief structure. We have the inductive belief structure and we have the deductive belief structure. Follow me on this, the inductive belief structure and the deductive belief structure. I want this inductive belief structure to be understood first and foremost. First of all, we've got the consciousness, which is your streaming thoughts 24/7, that all your beliefs and everything about you makes you in your state of mind and who you are. And your subconscious is what drives down into the hard drive of your mind and your body and makes you think of who you are and what you are even when you're sleeping. And now I got one other thing I want you to think about is the way we believe things. And this is going to be important for you to get through to these six ways to become self-confident. Is this the inductive belief structure and the deductive belief structure? So we've got to talk about the inductive belief structure, okay? The inductive belief structure is this idea that you believe things at their face value, and then if they don't work, then you're proven wrong. Inductive. If someone tells you something about yourself that you're fat, you believe it until it's proved wrong. If someone tells you something about buying a bridge for $1 in New York, you believe it until you're proven wrong. If someone tells you that you can make $1 million, you believe it until it's proven wrong. If Todd Saylor tells you that the subconscious is the key to all the success of inferiority complex and self-confidence and getting everything that you want in life, you're going to believe it until it's proven different. On the flip side, you're going to say, well, maybe I'm a deductive believer. So inductive is believing it on the front, prove me wrong later. Deductive is this thought process of, right, prove it now, and then I'll listen to you. You're fat. No, I'm not. Prove it. You're stupid. No, I'm not. Prove it. I got a bridge I can sell you in Newark. No, you're not. Prove it, right? So I don't know where you're at on that, but I'm going to tell you that the subconscious is the key to your success in the fight of your inferiority, in the truth of finding out and believing the truths about yourself. And you're going to say, no, it's not. I'll prove it later. Well, I want to make sure you understand you have two ways to believe. You have the inductive belief and you have the deductive belief. You have the consciousness and you have the subconsciousness. Now, I've taken you through these four channels. Those four things are this force of life. This is this force of nature. This is the force of all that God has given us in our brains and in our minds and the surrounding world and everything around us. It's just, and I want you to understand and feel its force just flowing through you. Because if you don't see it the way I'm showing you, you're not going to get it. Consciousness, subconscious, inductive, deductive. Right? This powerful life force surges 24/7 all the time. And we only have to figure these things out to get everything that we want. That's just not going to show up overnight like a genie, but it's the beginning. Look at the bottom here. It's the beginning of desire, right? Look at the bottom. Here it goes. Desire is the starting point to all achievement. Napoleon Hill. Right? I want you to be desirable to leave this inferiority complex away. I want to help you rid yourself of ever feeling inferiority again. This powerful life force surges through us, this inductive, this deductive, this consciousness, this subconscious. We have the power to direct it into any design we choose it, right? So we've got these four things. Now all we have to do is be the gatekeeper, the master, the designer. If we neglect to direct, It's like a loose fire hose. I got it right here. If we neglect to direct this force of everything in your brain and if we neglect to direct, it's like a loose fire hose, right? If we're not thinking about our consciousness, if we're not thinking about our subconsciousness and directing it, if we're not using inductive and understanding that or deductive and understanding that, we're like a fire hose that got loose at a fire. It's just the hose is going everywhere. It's just everywhere. It's like you can't even catch it. You just can't even catch it because it's life going its own way anyway, out of control, because we haven't grasped our consciousness, our subconsciousness, our inductive and our deductive, and we can put any of this together and we're just feeling like we don't measure up. Well, guess what? Maybe you should not measure up because you're letting everything happen to you, right? If we let everything happen to us, we shouldn't feel sorry for ourselves because we just let it happen. I don't want that to happen for you. I didn't think I'd get this excited today, but this fire hose, I don't want it to be you. I want you to elect to direct. I want you to elect to direct. I want you to elect to be a supremely purposeful person. I want you to elect to direct your consciousness to your subconscious. I want you to elect to direct of your inductive thought process and your deductive thought process. Know which one you are and how you're going to use it. So it's your privilege now. I want you to know it's now your privilege that I've told you all this. Do you choose to believe deductively or inductively? So you have to say to yourself, hey, deductively, since I got it up there first, I'm listening to all this stuff from Todd and let me just see if it works out there. Well, I'm telling you what, there's enough proof out there. There's enough testimonies. There's enough successful people out there. You talk to them, you look at them, and you get back to me. But guess what? The longer it takes you to do that, the longer you're going to feel inferior, the longer you're going to not be getting the things that you need and want in life, at least to the value and the amount of time that you have left here on earth to do the things that you want to do. And why waste any time? All right. So if you're inductive, you'll take these thought processes I'm giving you at face value, and you're going to say, all right, I choose to believe, Todd. I choose to believe that the consciousness is a streaming thought of all your beings, and you've chosen to believe things that just aren't true about yourself or other things. And now that's why you feel inferior. And you seeped into your subconscious, and now we're going to flush that out. And we chose by the inductive thought process to believe that this teachings are true. And now we're going to go out and kick some ass and take some names. That's exactly how it's going to go. So this it's your privilege now. Do you choose to believe deductively or inductively? And I do choose to believe inductively. And that's what I want you to think about is how can we build that subconscious? How can we build this conscious? How can we really understand that this streaming thought process is our consciousness, and we have to weed out those bad thoughts, let them whiff back into our subconscious, take those seeds that we've planted and cultivate them and work them and grow those insecurities out of us by acknowledging that they are untruths about ourselves. And the other inferiority things that we have about our jobs, get better at it, right? We understood that the inferiority side of your job not measuring up is that you don't know the entire truth. So let me just give you this quick story in college. So I told you about my bad scores, and I'm going to give you these 6 plays. So in college, I went there to play football, and I got a pretty good start in football, but my grades were bad. And I knew that in this type of school, I wasn't going to really be able to do much. And I knew I wasn't going to be able to make a living playing football. I was too small. I was not quite fast enough. I wasn't quite strong enough, but I did play hard. I did some things there. But I realized that by the time I was my middle of my sophomore year that I had to get better grades. I had to become smart. I felt inferior in grades. I felt inferior in math. I felt inferior in science. I felt inferior in anything academically. And I didn't know all this stuff, but I will tell you this. At one point, I sat down and I said to myself, I've got to get smarter. I've got to change who I am to become who I want to be. And from that point on, I started carrying my books around, right? I started standing a little straighter. I started dressing a little smarter. I started moving through class and sitting in the front row. I started acting like a student. And it was funny how the more I acted like a student, the more I became a student. The more I became a student, more people started asking me questions about how to do things. And I felt incumbent on me to show them how to do it. And I didn't want to let them down. As I lifted, I started lifting them up. I lifted myself up. And before you knew it, I took a struggling D+ average by the time I got to be a senior to almost a 3.0. And it took me 2.5 years to do that. That's how long it took to fix the bad habits that I had. But it's a good example of this idea of believing first that I was a good student, believing and acting like I was one. I was planning all this stuff in my subconscious, and I didn't know it. That drove me forward and released the untruths about myself that allowed me not to be inferior in the classroom anymore. And I carried those processes through life. And now it just happens at Wired differently. I write the book and I start to talk about these things. And I even read things like from Napoleon Hill and other smart people to this point. And it's true. You know, it just might be what I talk about the rest of my life. Because I don't really think that people should go through what I've went through. So let's get to the 6 plays, right? So 6 plays to shake inferiority. All right, I've got obtain, attend, listen, cultivate, associate, and expose. Now, here's the thing. We're done with this message. You can tune out if you want, but I do have the 6 plays. The most important things I've told you so far is consciousness, subconscious, inductive, deductive. Your life is a streaming force of wisdom and power, and you control your own universe. You control all the things about you with this pea brain. This small little bald head of mine has decided what to do, when to do it, make it work. Inductive, deductive, believe the truth, not the lies, and go. You can do it also. The force of nature. Our God, in His infinite wisdom, has given us all these tools to do things, have things, get things, anything we want in life. We can do it with this force of nature if we just decide to do it and put it in our subconscious and work towards it. So here we go. Here's how you have 6 plays to shake inferiority. I love you all. Thanks for listening. You're gonna get something. I want you to replay this. I want you to do these things. So here we go. The first one is obtain. I need you to go out there and obtain a good book. Let's start with the Bible. It's a great book. It's got everything in there about the mind. God talks about all these things. He talks about believing. He talks about the power. He talks about Psalms 23:7. It says, if what a man or woman thinketh in his heart is he. Key. That is your subconscious, your heart, right? So what you think of in your heart is you. God talks about all this. Obtain a good book. I want you to find a good book rendering mental processes, right? I wish I had 5 of them to give to you, and I didn't write them down, but there's a lot of great books out there. There's a lot of great speakers. You can listen to me. I don't have the depth of some of these neurologists and people out there, but I want you to find a good book rendering mental processes. I want you to have the things to back what I'm telling you and the power of these mental processes. A good book. Number 2, I want you to attend. I want you to attend positive lectures. I think Dave Kaufman does a good job. Ron Eccles does a good job. I think Delatoro McNeil, I mean, he does a lot of things, but he's a positive lecturer. I want you to surround yourself with positive speakers. I want people pouring things into your life. It can't just be me. It needs to be other people that have done it and proven it as well. I need you to surround yourself with positive lecturers. Don't surround yourself with Fox News and CNN and MSNBC and all this stuff that you're bathing in right now, because it ain't serving you any good. Surround yourself. I want you to attend positive lectures, right? Number 3, I want you to listen. All right. So this is probably, I will tell you my secret, right? My secret is to listen. I read. I'm a much better reader than I ever was. I started writing. I'm on my 2nd book. You're going to love it. Drift Again. 7 principles. Drift Again. 7 traits of wired differently people. It's an amazing book. I can't wait to get it out in your hands. But number 3 is listen. So what I do is read, and then I listen to what I've read. Matter of fact, before I give a speech, I will practice the speech 10, 15 times, maybe numerous times in my brain, depending on how you want to count it, but I'll record it till it's perfect. And then I will put the speech in my ear and I will listen to my speech verbatim as many as 20 times before I go out to give the speech. So I want to give you that advice. You need to listen to the recordings of self-confidence teachers. Listen to their recordings. Believe in yourself. Believe in this concept. Do it inductively, right? Don't need to be proven to you later. Believe in it inductively. Tell them, I'm telling you what is true is true. This will work for you. Listen to recordings of speeches, positive speeches, and self-confidence talks. 4, cultivate. I want you to cultivate with friends who have self-confidence. I know you've heard all this, but I think you're not doing it. Don't hang around with people who bring you down. Don't hang around with people that bring you down. Don't hang around with people that bring you down. I want you to cultivate. Cultivate means grow and nurture yourself and reap harvest from yourself with friends who have self-confidence, because friends with self-confidence will reward you and you can reward them, right? So cultivate. Don't hang around with people that bring you down, all right? Number 5, associate as much as possible with people of high confidence. So the first one was cultivate, to like grow yourself and be around people who have self-confidence, right? When I want to do something different, I want you to associate as much with people with I want you to associate, meaning I want you to be in the throes of those people, right? Cultivate is you're growing up around them, not necessarily intimate with them, but now I want you to associate with them. I want you to work with them. I want you to walk in between them. I want you to walk around them. I want them to want to invite you to be a part of their process. I want you to make sure you're picking those associates very well. Associate yourself as much as possible with people with high confidence. And now we're number 6. Here we go. Grand finale 6. I want you to expose. Now, that's funny because I say, expose yourself. Well, no, I don't want you to expose yourself. I want you to expose yourself to every possible source regarding the study of your mental process. Most important, I want you to expose yourself to every possible source regarding the study of your mental process. So we're all individuals, right? God created us different. If any two of us were the same, then one of us wouldn't be necessary, and he just didn't do that. We talked about how your brain has as many as 1,000 trillion neurons in your mind by the time you're 10 or 11 or something like that. Can you imagine the infinitesimal times of combinations of one person could be with that type of synapses occurring? Now multiply that times every person in the planet. Now multiply, you think about that. God has got this figured out. Do not compare yourself to other people. I want you to expose yourself to every possible source regarding the study of your mental process. You know, because if your favorite subject is you, if my favorite subject is me, we got to work on me, right? Because I'm responsible of me providing you with good things. And that's why I joke about it. I do like myself. I do. I'll look in the mirror and I'll, say I got the bald tan here. And I do like myself. I do love myself most of the time. But I do know that it's incumbent on me to do that so that I can make other people better. And once you start to do that inwardly, you're going to push it outwardly, and you're going to feel the blessings of other people and other things in the growth of that. So here we go. We want to obtain a good book. We want to attend positive lectures. We want to listen to recordings on self-confidence. We want to cultivate with friends who have self-confidence, and we want to associate as much as possible with people of high confidence. And now I want you to finally expose yourself to every possible source regarding the study of your mental process. So this was probably a lot longer than I meant it to be, and I appreciate many of you that hung on to this. I'm looking forward to your comments. Now, I'm going to do this every Sunday at roughly 4 o'clock. I'll give you a warning. I hope you got something from this, because I know you can beat this inferiority. We're going to be doing a thing called the WDEX Huddle. It's going to be sometime in November, and I want to invite any of you or all of you to come onto this virtual huddle. It's going to be roughly between 2 and 3 hours. We're going to work through this workbook called Wired Differently, the 7 Fulcrum Principles. And individuality, this whole idea of losing yourself to become who you are, is something we're going to talk about. We're going to go through the 7 Fulcrum Principles. We're going to figure out how to get you not only into a great business place in your life, but we're going to also first and foremost get you in a great place in your own life, in your own mind. Because if you can't do that, you can't do other things. So we want to do that because business and life is harmonious. Wired differently, people can't separate business in life. You can ask my wife, Tracy Saylor. She'll ask her, is Todd able to separate work from pleasure and life? I just can't, and I'm not going to lie about it. So we need to figure out how to make it all harmonious. We need to figure out how to make it work for you, and we want to make your relationships work through that. And I think I know we can do it because I'm going to give you all the poop on me that didn't work, and we're going to make sure that you don't do those same things. And I'm still doing it, unlike a lot of people out there that are coaching and doing all this stuff. I'm still operating as maybe 12 organizations, and I'm not going to stop. I'm just going to do this as my retirement. This is what I want to do for my passion, and I want to share it with you. I want to grow with you, and I want you to not feel inferior. I want you to love yourself. I want you to love yourself. You are the best in the world at your craft. You're an elite and deserve to be treated as such. And if you don't feel like you have a craft, if you don't feel like you have a channel, if you don't feel like you have a lane, then it's going to be very hard for you to feel not inferior. It's going to be very hard for you to stop feeling not confident. It's going to be very hard for you to move through that. So we want to get you to that lane. We want to get you to that channel. We want to get you to be the best in the world at your craft. We want to get you that craft. We want to get you that lane. We want to get you that channel. We want to do those things for you, wired differently, right? So, hey, let's end this. I mean, I know I went on. I get excited. I get emotional. I don't know. It's just something being alone in a room, talking to yourself, and my goodness, and make anybody go crazy, right? So anyways, we did this thing called Life Today, Wired Differently, and I hope you're going to crack that code on feeling inferior, because we got it. Because this force of nature that God has given us to do these things is yours to make your own decisions and to make and choose your own life, because you can get anything in the world that you want. You can be anything that you want. We can do this in certainly this great country of America and use this force. Let's do this thing called life wired differently. I appreciate everything. Y'all have a great day. This has been the Wired Differently
Experience. WDEX.